I was screaming when the enormous black dog started running after me. I should keep on running. I have to think about my mother. I opened my eyes and tried to speak, but instead of words, a bark came out of my mouth, and that's how I became the dog woman. Hi there. Sorry, I got caught up in the moment while reading this weird story from the internet. I'm Erica, a certified bookworm. I have a huge collection of books in my room, from textbooks, encyclopedias, to all kinds of fiction. There's just something addicting about learning new stuff and stories. But one day, my world crashed when my mom lost her job and she could no longer afford to buy me books. And online books hurt my eyes. I couldn't stop whining about it. My mom should find another job as soon as possible, or else I might go crazy. I have been rereading my favorite novels for the past 2 days, but I can't be satisfied. I badly need new books to read. One night, my heart broke when I saw my mom crying inside her room. The first and last time when I saw her crying was when Anna, her partner and my other mom, died 10 years ago when I was just 8. And now she's crying again. So it means that she's miserable. Mom, I called her. She turned away to wipe her tears as I entered her room. Are you crying? No, I'm not, silly girl. She chuckled a little. I just chopped some onions. In your bedroom? I sarcastically replied as I lovingly hugged her. Go get back to sleep, she said. I promise I'll find another job as soon as possible so I can buy you a new book already. I should be looking forward to what she said, but I felt terrible instead. I realized that I had been insensitive about the situation. I kept asking for the books when her savings were just enough for our food and bills. She didn't even get her last paycheck. I just realized how stressful it was on her part. I'm worried about our unpaid loans and bills. I've applied for 10 jobs and was unsuccessful, and I'm just really tired, Erica. Tired of what, Mom? I felt some warmth building up in my chest when I looked at her face. The lines and wrinkles have become more prominent, making her look older than she really is. I'm tired of being alone in this. I just wanted you to always be happy. She sighed and blinked the tears away again. Forget about the books, Mom. I can go to the library and read for free. How can I help you? I offered. I couldn't stand seeing her like this. She's the only treasure I have.
I can't just sit here and watch my mom in misery. I have to help her. I have to be strong. I have to find a way to make her smile again. But first I have to read a real book again. I needed to recharge, so I went to the local library the next day. So many books, so many stories, I gasped as I looked around. My moment of wonder was broken by the noise of the people around, followed by the old librarian enforcing the rule of silence. In all the commotion, my gaze was drawn to one woman sitting among the piles of books. She was just typing on her laptop, seemingly unbothered by the chaos around her. I spent my whole day reading and marveling around the library, and I couldn't help but worry about my mom. Even the stories couldn't help me with the peace of mind. If only I could do something to help. An idea came to my mind. I wanted to ask her if there were any vacant jobs here so I could apply, but I didn't know how to approach the librarian. She looked very strict and scary, like she was always ready to hit me with a stick. She reminded me of Edna Mode from The Incredibles. What if she'll turn me down or shut me up even before I could say something? I needed more time to gather up some courage for this. I came back to the library for the next 3 days and experienced the same scenario, but with a different set of people, except for that beautiful lady who was nonstop typing on her laptop. Every time I looked at her, she was always typing with her eyes seemingly glued on her laptop screen. I was reading my 5th book of the day, which was written by Rainbow Girl, my favorite author of teen fiction. Reading 5 novels in one day is quite impressive. It was Mrs. Anderson, the librarian. I didn't notice her presence approaching me. How did you get such passion? I rarely meet people like you nowadays. Most people now are all over the internet and prefer ebooks. There was a smile on her face as she spoke, so I felt at ease. It was my first time seeing her smile. I immediately stood up to answer her questions. It was my chance to inquire about the job. My other mom used to collect books, and I kept on reading them. It has become an addiction ever since. A bookworm, I see. She eyed me closely. I didn't know what to say next, so I awkwardly struck her up with some random trivia about books. Did you know that the longest title of a book has 3,777 words? She dropped her jaw in astonishment. You must be joking, my dear. No, I'm not. Then what is it? I bet you can memorize it. Yes, I do, but do you really want me to recite it here? It would take us years before I finish it. I could have read about 1,000 books by that time. You can check it in the Guinness World Records by yourself. To my surprise, she started chuckling. I think I like you. Why don't you help me manage this library as a part-time job? I suddenly saw some imaginary fireworks blasting right before my eyes. I couldn't be more relieved and thankful at her offer. They say don't judge the book by its cover. And I say, yes, indeed, Mrs. Anderson is one perfect example of it. She may be strict at times, but if you think about it, she was just doing her job. She actually seems nice. I think you're my fairy godmother. I was about to ask you if there was any vacancy here. My mom's lost her job and I really wanted to help her. Well, you can help her now and actually do what you like at the same time. Just help me around here. I think that's the best offer that I have ever heard in my life. I wanted to surprise my mom with my first salary at the end of the month, so I decided to keep this as a secret first. It was like heaven for me. This is actually what I wanted, to become a librarian or a book editor. Mrs. Anderson just made my dream come true. I have another dream that I wish to happen, and that is for my mom to be genuinely happy again. She hasn't been in the dating game for a long while now. The world is not all about money anyway. It's about following your passion and finding your happiness. Mrs. Anderson then started orienting me about my job responsibilities as her assistant. All I have to do is help her with some paperwork, assist the readers here, and make sure that they are following the rules of the library. On my first day of work, a guy came in with a blender and started doing his banana smoothie. Excuse me. I cleared my throat as I approached him. This is a library, not a kitchen. Yeah, I could tell by the books, he casually replied while he continued doing it. The loud whirring sound of the machine was scraping in our eardrums. Do you mind stopping it? Some people are studying, while others want to read in peace and solitude. Thank you. Do you want some? To my surprise, he offered me a glass of smoothie and a cheeseburger. I suppressed the urge to give in as they looked delectable. My mom cut down my school allowance and the budget for our food, so we'd been eating less for a week now. Please read the rules about food consumption inside the library. I pointed to the board with a list of rules with a serious face, but my stomach betrayed me. It growled so loudly in anticipation, and everyone must have heard it. The guy just started munching the cheeseburger in front of me, obviously teasing me. I was about to give in when Mrs. Anderson suddenly interrupted us. What is this all about? She asked sharply. The guy stood up and bowed apologetically. I'm sorry for the disturbance, ma'am. We were just doing a prank video for our YouTube channel. He turned to me again. Do you mind if you're in it? There was another guy at one corner secretly taking a video of us the whole time. So it means that everyone will get to see my face on YouTube? No. I don't want anyone to see me online, especially my mom. My job here will remain a secret until my first salary. I politely declined the vlogger's offer. As soon as they left, Mrs. Anderson then pulled me to her office and gave me her breakfast. I'll handle the library for the next hour. Just have a rest and eat. You need it. Thank you, Mrs. Anderson. You're the best. I couldn't resist her offer now after what had happened a while ago. She just smiled at me before closing the door. While I was eating, I thought about how wonderful it would be to have her as my grandmother. Both of mine were dead already. Days rolled so fast, and it was Friday already. It was the day before the weekend, so I expected to see less people in the library today. Mrs. Anderson didn't come, so she left all the responsibility to me. The library was totally empty when I arrived, except for the laptop of that beautiful woman on the table, where she always sits. Did she forget this here? I walked up to the table and started cleaning it. A part of me wanted to open her laptop and check what was making her busy all the time, but it's not good to touch other people's things without their permission and spying on them. While I was wiping the table, my elbow accidentally touched her mouse, and her screen suddenly lit up. It was just in sleeping mode earlier. Out of curiosity, I leaned down to see what was on the screen. It was like a manuscript. So she was a writer after all? I have been dying to meet one. I read a few paragraphs and just then found myself digging into the story. It was very fascinating, and her writing style is quite familiar. Do you like the story? I fell on the floor and hurt my butt when the beautiful lady suddenly appeared in front of me with a couple of books pressed against her chest. Oh my god, I'm so sorry for frightening you. Are you all right? She offered her hand and helped me get back to my feet. Sorry for sneaking into your laptop. I was cleaning the tables when your manuscript caught my attention. That's one nice story right there. I'm Denise, by the way. Denise and I became the best of friends in an instant. She was a 35-year-old aspiring author living in the city alone and was working at a publishing company. Over the next few days, I would help her out by giving her some books that could help her improve her story, and then review every chapter. I was enjoying this at the same time. Oh, and your mom died? I thought she just lost her job, she asked when I told her about my mom, Anna. Oh, I mean my other mom, I clarified. So you have two moms? She seemed confused by the setup. Yes, they were partners. I cleared it out for her. Oh. She looked down and I noticed the blush that crept across her face. Her reaction made me wonder for a moment, but I just brushed it off. I'm sorry about what happened to your mom. She must have noticed the sadness on my face and hurried to change the topic. So how was it, your early childhood? Well, whenever I had to ask something to one of them, she'd always be like, go ask your mom. And when I'd ask the other mom, she'd say again, go ask your mom. They'd keep at it until I gave up. It was hilarious, but it was a long time ago. But now I think we are okay. Life's not fiction where you can manipulate things according to your desires and create your world, like awakening the dead or changing your mom's life in an instant, I bitterly said. We can always turn fiction into reality, Erica. Only if we believe that we can do it. Always remember that. Denise's words stunned me. A month had passed and I finally got my first ever salary. Mom got a job as a babysitter next door last week, but what she was getting was really low. I surprised her with a very delicious dinner that night. Surprise! I handed her an envelope with money inside. What's this? What are you up to lately, sweetie? My mom asked me with surprise and curiosity all over her face. I've been helping Mrs. Anderson in the library. I have been working as her assistant for the past month, and that's my first salary. Erica, this is huge! Her eyes widened when she finally opened the envelope. It's just enough for our bills and food. I'll look for more jobs. I'm also helping out my new best friend, Denise, an aspiring author who I met at the library. Why don't you invite them here for dinner so I can thank them? That's a great idea! The thought of Mom meeting those equally wonderful women made me excited. It's time for her to meet new friends and have a social life again. The next day at the library, Denise finally submitted her first manuscript to her editor, and it got approved right away. But what caught my attention was her pen name written in her final manuscript. Rainbow Girl? Your pen name is Rainbow Girl? That famous teen fiction author? I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Was it just a coincidence? Since you're so special to me now, I wanted you to know it. But just keep it a secret, okay? She winked at me, and I almost fainted at the revelation. She really wanted to keep her identity anonymous so people could judge her stories without any bias. Oh my God, I can't believe it. You're actually her. I can't thank you enough for this, Erica. My work on this novel got easier because of you. What can I do to make it up to you? I acted like I was thinking for a moment before finally inviting her. Just have dinner with my mom and Mrs. Anderson later at our house. She looked like a snake had bitten her neck for a moment. With your mom? She's blushing again, and it gave me the impression that she's a generally shy person. I went home early to prepare for our dinner date. Mom had already prepared all the delicious food on the table, and she was currently doing her makeup. Wow, I barely recognize you. You look so beautiful, Mom. She stood up and twirled around to show off her pretty dress. The look of excitement on her face was overwhelming. They will be here any minute now. Minutes later, the doorbell finally rang, and both women were now waiting at our front porch. Denise was wearing a beautiful black dress and makeup tonight, and her beauty made me speechless. She looked even more stunning now. I hugged them both and happily introduced them to my mom. I elbowed my mom when I noticed that she was not speaking. She was just staring at them, specifically at Denise, and so was Denise at her. I smirked when I realized something. How could I be this slow? Sorry, I was just... My mom stuttered, but I was able to get a grip right away. I'm just thrilled to finally meet you two. Erica has been talking endlessly about you. My heart leapt with joy when I saw the sparkle in her eyes as we chit-chatted with both women over dinner. I was so happy to see that Denise and Mom were like best friends right away. Mrs. Anderson was also cheerful all night, and I was delighted that I got to know her even more. Things got more interesting when Mrs. Anderson revealed that she'd actually brought some wine. It was one of the best nights of our lives. My mom looked happier ever since she'd met them. Denise offered her an essential position at her publishing company, which was actually the biggest one in the country, while I continued to work as Mrs. Anderson's assistant at the library after school. When I arrived home one night, I heard some voices from the kitchen. I discreetly headed there to check who was Mom's visitor. It was Denise. Why was I not surprised? My mom was cooking food for dinner while Denise kept on tickling her. As revenge, my mom smeared mayonnaise on her nose, and they ended up in fits and giggles. It eventually faded when they stared at each other with some sort of tension. They took about 10 steps apart, as if they were allergic to each other upon seeing me. "Sweetie, what are you doing here?" I laughed upon seeing how my mom's face became red as the ripest tomato in town. Denise just turned to her laptop on the table and pretended to be busy typing. "Don't mind me. Pretend that I'm invisible," I said with a wide grin before leaving them. The smile never left my face until I reached my room. The look of happiness on my mother's face felt so satisfying. Well, I guess fiction and reality aren't that different after all.